manpower to build such a huge house. This is also an inhabitation area. They are using a concrete to be mixed together with wooden structures on the city wall. On this part of the drawing, it is the burying area. This is where the tomb has been discovered. So once we have came up with this drawing, we can imagine the living styles of the ancestors 4,500 years ago. This year, the large excavation campaign is going to be started in this part, as where we are located and standing, but it is not included in this layout because it still waits for our unearthing. We gradually fill in the different pieces and trying to piece out the puzzle together. I don't know whether and how our viewers feel after listening to Professor Yang's introduction. This is a huge residential area with its living room, with its burying tombs, and with its public area. There are also some of the areas for the plantation, for the farming. This is another layout that even I can understand what does it mean. This is where we are. A bird view of where we are located. Currently, we are standing here. So please turn it over and we are going to show you the whole archaeological site. There are also so many different archaeologists who is working together. I believe that we are doing different work. So here, I believe two of the experts is trying to collect the data, and they are going to gather up the data for the computer analyst. There are also other different workers. This is also my first time to learn about this special type of work. It is what we call a carbon diagnosis. We are using the different squares of the earth to unearth different informations, including the material informations, the historic informations, and we believe that square-based method is a very important part. So please be careful of your steps. Do not step on any distinct part of the earth. We believe there are potteries buried underground. Archaeological research is archaeology is actually a discipline where we have divided different parts of the earth. We could imagine 4,500 years ago, there might be some of the burning spots here, people collecting woods to burn and to heat them up. For this area, it is demonstrating a reddish color that is quite distinguishing from other different areas. There are two parts for the archaeological discovery. We need to figure out the different colors, and we should also evaluate the relations between the different equipments. Are there any chaotics? So I'm also quite curious about this part because we have marked some of the numbers here. Because there is a small slope here, we can have a very direct understanding of the years and archaeological information for the different sections. According to the historic relics that we have collected from this layer, for example, the number 4 layers, we have unearthed a lot of potteries discovered in the Han Dynasty. So we think that was a layer around 2,000 years ago. So that is to say there 5, 6, and 7, and even 8 are earlier than 2,000 years ago. It is like a vertical axis for the time, and extending from this horizontal axis, we could imagine this is the Earth that we are standing on. This is also the Earth that people are standing on 4,000 years ago. We have drawn a few lines. This is also helping us to figure out the different time spans. There are also different changes. We collected relics according to the time and according to different sites. I believe if we enter into another page, we are going to have a real look at the different archaeological discoveries. I'm not a history major, but I could see the difference of the different earth layers according to their color. Generally speaking, we have divided the different time according to the cultural relics that we have discovered. This is a nature-written historic book. It tells us stories that buries under earth. So for each one of the geographical layers, it is like turning up one of the pages for this archaeological book. I'm sitting on the modern time, but if you take a step below, you are going to enter into the world 4,000 years ago. It is the real time slip. A time slip that will take you 4,500 years ago. This is a very huge carbon square. Why do we left such a huge carbon squares? This is not being left. It is actually what we have discovered. The first time that we have digged around the Chengdu plateau, we have also selected a lot of relics. And this is also going to speed the unearthing procedures. So please follow my step to have a check on these sites. There are so many different relics and treasures being discovered here. For the common and people, for the normal people to understand the historic knowledge of what we have discovered here, I believe this is actually a real burying ground for the treasures. There are different colors, but even at the same time period, there are different geographical earth accumulations. So the work for the archaeologist is to interpret the different ground and also the different layers and colors. We could still feel the slope here. It is stretching toward that direction. It is the form of the earth at 4,500 years ago. So it is like a platform. And around the platform, there are some of the dredges protecting the platform. They are also trying to use these dredges to protect the platform and even extend the surface of the platform. Are there any questions our viewers have? You can type in our chat box, and I'm going to tour you around the historic journey of 4,500 years ago. There are also some of the treasures which is unearthing right now. Let's have a look. Is it a pot? We could see the different. We could have a guess of the shape of this pottery ware. I believe the general features of the pottery is gradually demonstrating itself to ourselves. And we are going to have a look of this pottery ware. I think it's quite huge. To protect it, we are using some of the wooden structure, wooden tools to unearth it. And we have also dispatched our most experienced archaeologists to unearth this pottery. If we follow our camera, we could also see there are some of the relics. This is also the pieces of the pottery. Here and here, there are several different scatters of the pottery. There are so many different scatters of the pottery. Are we going to collect them one by one? Yes. We are also going to show and draw the different pictures of all of these potteries. But this pottery has fallen into different pieces. In our archaeological research, we have divided ourselves into different categories. We could imagine that this is a city or this is a room. In a city or in a village, we believe all the potteries or all the pieces is just a part of a hint to their day-to-day life. By piecing them together, we could solve the puzzles of their life 4,500 years ago. Everybody is working really hard to unearth some of the potteries. I believe some of my colleagues here is also unearthing. I haven't seen all of these special tools. I think it is being sealed and specially marked. We collected the earth here. We are trying to collect some of the earth. That is what we call an environmental earth. With the archaeology developed to this day, we are not only collecting some of the treasures or some of the potteries, we have also collected some of the earth, indicating the environment 4,500 years ago, so as to predict the environmental changes from that day to day. And we could also want to understand what has happened and how does this climate change affect humans' lifestyle. We believe there are so many different indications from the environmental, from these earth samples, because Chengdu used to be a plateau, and we have used to be the Chengdu plain. It used to be the Chengdu plain. We need to collect the historical data of the Chengdu plain. I am going to bring all of these special pieces back to our site and back to our laboratory for further analysis. Small pottery pieces that is going to have us known the world that has never known before. And this is also another archaeological site. We could see here there is some of the specially distributed colors. It has some of the reddish colors, and we are trying to spread some of the water to moisturize the earth. We could see the pottery has been broken into several different pieces. And until the next phase of our archaeological work, we are going to understand what are these pottery pieces used for and what is the function for this archaeological pit. There are so many stories unearthed, buried underground. But for the first step for the archaeological discovery, we need to find out the different pieces and put them together until we figure out the puzzle. Our requirement to ourselves is to do it with a dedicated manner we believe that every testing result should be precise. And through every archaeological excavations, we could have a better understanding of people's living styles at the time. This is not the common earth. This is what we not called the environmental sampling earth. We have extracted every single samples of the earth, and we are also going to figure out the compositions of the earth at the time. If we want to find the chemical element in the earth, we also believe it indicates the people's lifestyles and what they have eaten. I believe by digging the environmental earth piece by piece, we are going to piece together the ancient people's life. We are going to have a look at one part of the laboratory. Different pieces of the earth is going to convey the different information because we have used different technologies. The discipline of archaeology is a work to understand the information in the ancient times. No matter what type of the information that we have gathered, it is also a part of the historic information. This is a quite beautiful site. I believe what we have discovered here, what has actually discovered here, it is a part of the relics, the Baodun relics. We have grouped some of the weight here. So what did the ancient people grow here? Is it also weight? This is the questions hanging over Director Chang, and he is trying to piece together the lifestyles of the ancient Shu people. What does the ancient Shu people live on? This is a very magical journey. I also want to ask our viewers, so can you imagine 4,500 years ago, how did the ancient Shu people live on? What do they eat? What are their supples? And I believe our viewers can also leave some of the messages about the questions in your head. I think the unearthing work for the Baodun relics has lasted for 15 years. When he was still a student, he did his internship here, and after graduation, he's also continued his work. I also want to gossip. Here, he met his wife on these Baodun ruins. And also he has a pet dog called Dun Dun, named after the Baodun relics. Archaeological discovery at the different sites is very beautiful and amazing. But you, Director Chang, only came up with several pieces of the pottery. This is his treasures. Your treasure is quite different with other people's treasures. I'm also envying other people if they have dug out some of the national treasures. But in my imagination, I think I'm encountering people 4,500 years ago. I actually want to unearth the ground. I want to figure out the code written 4,500 years ago. I actually want to read more reports to let the general public know about it. Because archaeological findings has a lot of reference. It is nothing like what we have discovered in other different pieces. There are not so many historical records. It is only the legends that has told us. No matter for the Baodun ruins or the Sanxingdui ruins or the 12 ruins, the archaeologist is using the different relevant information to tell the general public about the Baodun site. There's not so much historical record, because when we are trying to unearth some of the historical sites or tombs, we believe some of the word is echoing with what we have found on the historic books. But for the Baodun site or Sanxingdui ruins, it is nothing like what we have discovered in the middle part of China. There is no word recording to it. There is not so much word. So that is the reason why we need archaeologists to help us to transfer it to the information. It is my honor to encounter Baodun. We are trying to imprint the history. And this is also filling in the blanks of what we have discovered in the recent few years. I'm trying to fill in some of the historic blanks here. Sometimes the result might not be that real shining, but every time when I came up with some of the discoveries, it has changed what we have understand about the Sichuan province. For example, we actually find the Shu Dao, the ancient Shu's journey to the mountain. For example, we have also discovered some of the bones of the cows and also sheep. We are telling a story to the general public about the Chengdu plateau, about the people's lifestyles 3,000 years ago. Director Chang is unveiling the information to all of us. And I think all of us we have discovered some of the weight here, some of the house-kept pigs around 4,000 years ago. And we can imagine at that time, the highly developed civilization has really benefited the people in their biological environment and also in the food that they have eaten. So all the civilization has not been developed overnight. So the stage of Baodun ruins is where people are trying to figure out how to do a better job. So we should figure out where does the Sanxingdui ruins came from. But from the Baodun ruins, we could understand that the civilization has not been built overnight. There are a quite long preparational stage for the Sanxingdui ruins. This is another part of their working sites. Each of the earths have different colors. And I believe our staff is bringing all the earth back for us to select. So what does the select means? How did you use the floating selection method? Generally speaking, it is what we call to wash the mud off the scatters. Because I think the carbonized plantations and animals have different weight compared with the mud. This is the sample that we have collected. Archaeological discovery is a multidisciplinary professional activity that it needs the participations of the experts from different disciplines. That is how we fill in the blanks of our historic book. With such a short time for live streaming, I think it is not enough for us to draw the whole pictures of all the archaeological discovery. Let's speed up to have a look at what we are working. So many pottery pieces here. For all the pottery pieces that we bought back, we placed it here, and then we clean it up. These are some of the pottery pieces washed over. There are several hundreds of the pieces who is being placed here. We can imagine there are several hundreds pieces of the pottery pieces. How do we put them together? There are so many different patterns on the surface of the pottery pieces, but I think all of you can imagine about that. You talk about the earth on the surface. What is the secret of the earth? This is actually one of our laboratory. After water washing, we have placed it on the photo microscope. I think he has already selected some of the samples. Can you show us what are the fabrics that you have selected on? I believe I have selected some of the weights. This is the different grains of the weight that we have found 4,500 years ago. After cleaning, after washing, after hanging in the yard, we could see the different weight. This is a special camera taking photos for the different weight. It is very similar to the weight or to the rice that we are eating today. Apart from discovering some of the weight, we have also discovered some of the rice. Currently, in Baodun, people have focused on the rice plantations. I believe 4,500 years ago, the ancient people also plant some of the millets alongside with the rice. We still hang to the historic belief that the rice plantation is actually a migrational effort from the Yangtze River. I also pieces puzzle at my home. I think it's very difficult journey, but we could see some of the laboratory workers who can really piece them together. When you were trying to understand these pottery pieces, you are going to figure out what is this ware used for. Then you were trying to figure out what are these pieces placed. This is a very general pottery pieces that we have discovered on site. This is exactly where we have watched on the site. If we dig it out, for each one of the pottery pieces, I think for the upper part of this bottle, it takes 30 different pieces to be together. This has provided us comprehensive information about the Shu culture at that time. The piecings for these pottery pieces, if we want to put them together, it is not very simple work. The patterns can be connected together. This is a very typical patterns of the watery wave patterns. And if you look below, there are also some of the unified patterns. It is very huge pottery pieces with a very beautiful decorations, indicating the ethnic beauty of the ancient Shu people. These are some of the wares that we have restored and renovated. These different wares is boosted with different shapes and different sizes. This unearthing of such a prehistoric pieces and relics is conveying us the information. For the different wares, or the ceramics and the potteries, they have been divided into different categories, including the mud-made pieces, the ceramic-made pieces. It's such a difficult work to piece all of them together. There's basically no information based on their based on their experience. They can really piece them together. I have also pieced some of the pottery ware myself, and I'm really proud to introduce you that I have pieced many different pottery wares, and the work that I have finished has been exhibited in many different museums. So when I visited other museums, I have found some of the potteries that I have been pieced out. It really feels like that I have taught some students and I met them once again during my lifetime. These are some of the stone-made wares. This is the stone-made arrowhead. It has been sharpened quite uniquely, quite sharply, and this is also another spearhead. And we could also see some of the holes being digged here. This is an indication of local people's craftsmanship. We could see this ware. This is also very unique ware. Through our observation, it is not a real day-to-day wares, and we could see so many different patterns carved on the surface. So from my personal experience, I could deduct that these might be some of the wares mimic the movement of a snake or some of the dragons. I could feel that this is a piece of the ware indicating people's consciousness. Not only people have drawn the conclusion from their day-to-day life. This is the lower part of the jaw for the half-kept pig. I have told you on the site that this is a special branch of the archaeology that is what we call animal-based archaeology. The animal-based archaeologists, not only could they understand the different types of the animal based on the bones that we have unearthed, they can also use it to indicate and to figure out the economic performance at that time. So through this several different pieces of evidence, we could find the ancient Shu people at the Baodun site. They are using the arrows, they are also using the spears, and they are also keep some of the pigs. They have other different their day-to-day life is also being accompanied with the wildlife. They have also worshipped the snake or dragon That is what I came up with. I think Mr. Tang has depicted us a very vivid picture of the ancient people's life 4,500 years ago. This is a real miracle. We could feel the local people is gradually evolving, and they are trying their best to cultivate their culture, just as the people our viewers has wondered before. Where did the Sanxingdui ruins come from? I think Sanxingdui ruins has not been built up over one day. This is a gradual developed civilization. For this time, we have relaunched the unearthing of the Sanxingdui site. We are also embarking on a journey to look for the answers once again, but I don't know whether we could be blessed with more discoveries this time. So this is the end of the introduction for the Baodun site. One of my colleagues, Jiang Ning, is working at the site of Jinsha ruins, and we are going to see him in the Jinsha ruins.
Dear viewers with CGTN, very welcome for all of you to be here at the Jinsha ruins. Today, I'm going to tour you around for the Jinsha ruins and try our best to figure out the historic relics of the Jinsha civilization. I am currently at the gate of the Jinsha Museum. So we kindly invited the distinguished guests from Jinsha Museum to introduce. I'm Wang Fang, the Deputy Director of the Jinsha Ruins Museum. I have witnessed the rebuild of the Jinsha ruins, and I am really lucky that on the second day of discovery for the Jinsha ruins, I have participated in the Jinsha ruins, and later on I've been part of the preservation stage, and I also been a part of the construction for the museum. I think that some of the people have devoted their life to one great endeavor. Director Wang Fang is going to accompany her beloved Jinsha ruins until the day she retired. This is where the Jinsha ruins have been located. This is where we have discovered the Jinsha ruins. The majority of the pieces is being discovered here, and accompany with the stories that when we have unearthed the Jinsha pieces, we're going to unearth the mystery of the Gushu civilizations. And we are also going to figure out the internal connections between Sanxingdui civilizations and the Gushu civilization. So facing in front of us, there is a huge TV screen. This is a very huge trench connecting to and expanding to another and more deeper trench. This might be quite different with what we have understand in the Baodun ruins. It is very simple and brutal. So the unearthing of the Jinsha ruins is a quite accident, because this year marks the 20th year's anniversary when we uncovered the Jinsha ruins. In the spring 20 years ago, the excavators who were trying to unearth some of the sands and trying to build up some of the pipelines here figured and find on the Jinsha ruins. During the process, they have used some of the huge excavators, and the gate of the Jinsha ruins has been accidentally opened up. I'm actually standing on the cross point of the Jinsha civilization. This is where we have unveiled the mystery of Jinsha civilization 20 years ago. I'm going to introduce you. This is actually the number 1 page. This is actually the area where we started our early discovery. We have cleaned up all the different earth, and 1 month later, we have built a real traveling site. There are so many different elephant tusks laying out in a regular manner, and also the average length of these elephant tusks is around 1.4 to 1.6 meters. They are lining up quite regularly. This is nothing like what we have discovered in the Sanxingdui ruins, but when we unearthed them on their first day, we could feel that the pattern of Sanxingdui has repeated once again. And because of this shocking information for digging up some of the elephant tusks, it has reminds us of archaeological discoveries. Within a short period of 1 year, until the year 2002, in this area, we have unearthed another historic centers, or some of the clusters of the ancient Shu people. This area has covered a surface of 1,500 square meters, and the ancient Shu people is paying their tribute to the god through their ritual ceremony here. In this huge pit, we have discovered different ways for the ritual ceremonies. There are 60 different sites closely related to their ritual ceremony. So let's have a look at this part, and we could also find some of the elephant tusks. It is a huge tree carried by the water, and it is also being buried underground together with Sanxingdui ruins. At that time, the ancient Shu people, or what we call the Jinsha people, is doing their ritual ceremony alongside the river. They started their ritual ceremony 3,400 years ago. Their ritual ceremony has been divided into 3 stages according to the feature for the ritual ceremony. During the first stage, between 3,600 years ago to 3,400 years ago. They are using some of the potteries to pay their tribute to the god, while on the second stage, they are using some of the elephant tusks during their ritual ceremony. There are also so many different, and on the third stage, we have unearthed so many different bronze wares, jade wares, to indicating the ancient Shu people are using these wares to pay their tribute to God. We could see that some of the elephant tusks is being lined up, but some of the elephant tusk is being cut up and carved in a very clear manner. And we could see the number 6 page. This is also indicating the development of the ritual ceremony. The ancient Shu people has cut the elephant tusks to worship the god. While we are seeing on the page number 17, there are so many different jade wares. Around 1,800 years ago, the ancient Shu people has used the gold wares and the silver wares and also the bronze wares extensively during their ritual ceremony. I believe from the Sanxingdui ruins across the Chengdu plain, the ancient Shu people have built up a new gathering cluster in the area of Jinsha, and for the Jinsha ruins, it has been extended further. And I believe the ancient Shu people has lived longer in this area compared with the Sanxingdui ruins. From our archaeological discovery, Sanxingdui ruins is mainly used for the ancient Shu people's ritual ceremony, but in the later stage, between 3,200 years ago to 3,100 years, there are some of the unique events happening in the Sanxingdui ruins. There might be some of the internal conflicts, shift of power. That's the reason why a group of the ancient Shu people has migrated themselves into the Jinsha ruins. During our unearthing in the Jinsha ruins in the past 20 years, we have figured out and unearthed some of the huge palace sites. And we have also figured out some of the national level treasures that has been extended and used for the repeated time. So I believe this is where the Jinsha people has paid their tribute to the god, and this is where the ritual ceremony happened. We could see some of the exquisite god crown lace, and I believe the god crown lace is waiting for us in the museum. The reason for the CGTN's special live streaming is that we are going to unearth the new pit of the Sanxingdui, and we believe some of the new archaeological findings is going to face us in the future. Are we going to find some of the civilizations after the Sanxingdui ruins? Are the new discoveries indicating a life period that is parallel to the Jinsha ruins in the Sanxingdui areas? So the archaeological discovery is just like figuring out puzzles. It is like solving the puzzles. I'm actually working like a detective, trying to decode. This is where we have unearthed the sun and immoral bird god ornament. We believe the excavations for the Jinsha ruins used to be a very protective campaign if we are not trying to unearth all of these treasures in a very quick manner. All of these tasks, elephant tasks, and also the treasures is going to be exposed to the external air. It is what we call an emergency excavation campaign when we try to unearth the Jinsha ruin for its first day. And later on, we have designed this campaign according to our plan. For this area, the procedures for the ritual ceremony is very complicated. In a very short time period, we have excavated a lot of godwares, bronzewares, and also the task for the house-kept pigs. This is indicating the lifestyles for the ancient Shu people and even the people in Jinsha. But in the second stage, the ancient Shu people are using a lot of elephant tusks. But in the later stage, it is a parallel period between the spring and autumn warrior time. The jade pieces disappeared. The bronze pieces disappeared. There is only some of the tasks for the pigs. This has also astounded me. The number also declined for these ritual ceremonies. You could find some of the gradually formed tasks. In the later stage, the people gradually migrated here, and this is actually the new city center. And this is what we call the late stage civilization. At the late stage of their ritual ceremony, I don't know whether you have found some of the small details. From the river bank to this part, there is actually a slope in this ritual part. When we were close to the river bank, we believe the civilization gradually moved from the riverbank to the highland. And if we are reaching to the highland part, we are entered into the late stage of the Jinsha civilization. We could feel the activities of the Jinsha people. They move gradually from the riverbank to highland. They have used the ritual ceremony of the Sanxingdui ruins. They have repeated the ritual ceremony of the Sanxingdui ruins. But they are using the wares more rationally because Jinsha people has hosted their ritual ceremony in a more frequented manner. That's the reason why they buried so many different gifts in their ritual ceremony. The real archaeological discovery is not only about how many treasures that we have unearthed. It's like piecing all the different pieces of the puzzle together, and gradually we could figure out what the people's lifestyles thousands of years ago. Do they really follow some of the manners? This is also what we have read about history. There is another important site that we have discovered a group of 9 different pillars supporting a palace. This is what we have indicated and figured out the ancient Shu people must have a real ritual ceremony platform, and the ancient Shu people has not only left us some of the passwords. There is a very huge tree. So, did you measure this tree, the surface of the tree? I could tell you that the root of the tree has covered around 100 square meters.
and the branches of the tree is also covered 100 square meters. It is like some of the secret tree standing beside the river, and this magic tree is also a witness of the ancient Shu civilization. It is what the ancient Shu people called a Chufang Tree, a maple tree. And this maple tree has been discovered quite frequently in the tropical regions and in the subtropical regions. We could see that this tree has been extended to its roots to the river bank. There are so many different elephant tusks being unearthed here. We could imagine that during a time where international trade and transportation has not that been advanced, we can really collect some of the elephant tusks. With so many years of the excavations and also laboratory testings, we could understand that during Jinsha civilization, the animals and also the plantations has been very prosperous. There are not only elephants, there are also some of the rhinos. There were some of the rhinos, deers, horses, among other different elephants, gray bears. The people of Jinsha is also living together with wildlife. That is how the Jinsha people lived together with nature. If we turn around, we could find out. So this is actually the celebrity of our museum. We have planted some of the grassland. We have kept some of the deer in our museums. It is trying to create an atmosphere to indicate to the tourist about what does the ancient Shu people lives. Deer are good friends with our humans. With such huge number of the deer might live in such an environment. We could also figure out the different symbols in the Chinese culture. The deer has always been accompanying people, and when the people is getting in touch with the deer, they have also built up their first hint for their lifestyles. And I could find that the deer is not afraid of people. We have kept the bear for a long time. The bear is also being breeded and brought up in Jinsha Relic Museum. We have fed the deer with the grassland from its first day. I could feel that the animals and the people can live along harmoniously because Jinsha Museum was first built in the year 2002. We need to do a lot of protective work. The reason for us to build up such a museum is to keep the Jinsha ruins and the Jinsha sites. It is also going to provide a very flexible way for the future archaeologists and experts to figure out better about. We are building our museum on the Jinsha ruins, but we have selected some of the trees we have selected the tree species symbols to the Jinsha civilization. We have selected some of the trees with the deep roots in order to avoid the tree's roots extend deeper to the relics buried underground. We actually want to replicate the Jinsha site. When I was talking to, I feel that the airplane is also crossing over my hand. I actually really want to sit. When I take a plane and when I take a flight, I really want to sit near the window. I believe if you are flying toward Chengdu, you could feel the Jinsha ruin site sitting at your feet. When you were selecting the airplane to Chengdu International Airport, you could feel the Jinsha ruins is actually watching you. We are crossing a river. This is a river that has been built. Is it being built artificially? So during the Jinsha civilization, this is a river existed during the Jinsha civilization, and this river has been running for 2,000 years. We believe the Jinsha civilization is located on the southern part of this river. The city is living on the waterfront of this river. So that is to say, our ancient people have already figured out the reasons behind urban civilization. They choose the best location to dwell on, and they have selected the best spaces. And we are actually heading towards the museum. Why do they choose this direction? I think it is following the water flows of the Minjiang River and the Yangtze River. After thousands of years, our ancestors is also trying to understand the historic patterns after the Jinsha civilization. In Chengdu's archaeological research, there are also the 12 different gateway bridge. It is also the late stage of the ancient Shu civilization. After the ancient Shu civilization, it came to the Qing dynasty. And around 300 BC, Zhang Yi has built the city of Chengdu. After Qing has conquered the Shu Kingdom, Shu became a part of the Chinese civilization. This is a city that has a history of around 5,000 years. And Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor of Qing dynasty, has really selected some of the experts to treat the watery disaster, the flood, and the Minjiang River. He has included the part of Shu into the vast Chinese civilization. And he has built the Dujianyan River Dam, a real engineering feat at that time. And the Dujianyan Dam also works until today. It is a real engineering feat in the history of China. So dear viewers, we have entered into the middle part of the museum. I'm going to tour you around of the Jinsha Museum. We are going to start our journey about the Jinsha Museum. It has several different layers. We are on the second floor. This museum has been built one floor. It has been built one basement with two different floors. It has exhibited some of the best treasures in the Jinsha civilization. It has also replicated people's lifestyles. So we are starting our journey through the number 1 exhibition hall, and on our head it is the number 2 exhibition hall, and where a 3D image has been built to tell the stories of the ancient Shu people's life. we have followed the civilization of the ancient Shu people, and we are going to have a touch about the history. So listen.
这是对。3000年前金沙遗址出土的一件精美的文物发出的声音。
This is a beautiful sound.
那也就是说，当年古蜀人的生活当中是有音律的了。对。
Created by the ancient Shu people 3,500 years ago. In Han Dynasty, some people called Yang Xiong has read some of the record of the people in the ancient Shu time. He noted that the ancient Shu people don't know the music, they don't cite the music, and they don't say, and they don't know about how to behave properly. But actually, according to these historic treasures, we understand about that. There are some of the archaeologists who might find some of the symbols. So one word might be containing more cultural symbols. The sound we have heard is also a real exemplification of the ancient Shu people. They are the people with a sense of the beauty. They create wonderful bronzewares and godwares. Why don't they leave more word or more musical pieces for us to understand them better? It needs our further exploration. These times, archaeological discovery has triggered interest across the world because, apart from the excavation campaign in 1986, this time's excavation is going to fill in the blanks of the history. Today's live streaming is only a prelude to a warm-up to this such a huge excavation campaign. It is also a demonstration of such a wonderful civilization. You might be quite familiar, or you might think that this bronzeware is quite familiar to you. You might have met it before. It is like looking at my family photos. If you touch on this bronzeware, if you have really followed our journeys of the Sanxingdui ruins, you will find this small bronze figure has really resembles the Sanxingdui's giant bronzeware. It has its similarities. That bronze giant figure is very huge, quite severe. It has a height of 1.7 meters. And if you look at this small bronze figure, it also has its basement. But for the bronze figure in the Jinsha, it also has its basement. Actually, the bronze figure in Sanxingdui only have a height of 1.4 meters, while our bronze figure is also sitting on a platform. There are some of the basement lining up here. So what is different is that it is very well designed. So it is only 1/10 of the length of this figure. There are so many different features. So for this bronzeware, it has a very thin figure. It is standing very still. And from the proportionate ratios perspective, it is larger. And look at its hand. It is holding something. Its right hand is above its left hand. And there are some of the spaces between his left hand and right hand or if he is making some hand gestures, or if he is holding something, it is a smaller relic of the giant bronze figure in Sanxingdui ruins. But the giant bronze figure in Sanxingdui ruins has a larger head with protruding claws. I believe the ancient people wear some of the accessories. We could find the holes on their ears where they have hung their earpieces. We could also see the pigtails of the figures from the Jinsha ruins. There he is, standing still with the pigtail hanging behind his head. Some of the scholars also observe that with so many different bronze figures, if I group them together, there are two groups of the people. The first, so we have estimated there are basically two groups of the people in the Sanxingdui ruins. The first group of people is what we call the pigtail group. Those people who would tie their heads together, and those who is not going to tie their hairs together. And in the Jinsha ruins, we find all the different bronze figures have already tied their hairs together to make it a pigtail. So we have estimated there might be a group of the people from the Sanxingdui ruins later migrated to the Jinsha site. This is a very strong evidence. This is one of the theories. The people who have tied their hair together come to Jinsha ruins. This is only a part of the elephant tusks that we have unearthed on the first page. We are using the silicone gels to fill it. We all know that on the number 1 page of the Sanxingdui ruins, we have unearthed around 81 pieces of elephant tusk, but few are preserved until today. Although the elephant tusk is being buried under earth, it is like a very strong Lego toys. Once we have touched it, it is going to be scattered around. We have used a lot of methods to preserve this elephant tusk. We have injected a lot of different materials. Around 20 years ago, we have selected the silicone gel to preserve the elephant tusk. It was a very new attempt 20 years ago. So here comes to our lucky draw round. We have done, if you are participating in today's live streaming, we are going to give you a very special mug. If you drink some of the tea using this special mug, it is very unique. This is also can be used to drink some of the whiskey. We place it here, and we are going to start our lucky draw. We have prepared 10 pieces of these Sanxingdui bronze marks, and there is a very huge piece of the stone plate. So here comes the question: what does this stone plate used for? Or can you name it? Or can you prove it? Or can you tell us what does this stone piece is used for? Is it a platform to put the tea? What does this stone piece or the stone pit is used for? I know that the modern people in Chengdu really likes to drink some of the tea. What does this stone piece used for?
Is it something to use to do some of the laundries? I believe today's live streaming is being shown in the CCTV and also in the CMG and also in the CGTN platform. So here comes the question: what does this stone plate used for? Is it a wear? Is it part of the architects? Please answer the question. If you can come up with a very good name, if you can come up with the name of the stoneware, or if you can come up with the function of the stonewares, we are going to send you this special bronze marks as a part of our lucky lottery today. And I'm also kindly invite the friends on the sites to be a part of our activities. These are some of the jade pieces. Demonstrating the similar feature together with Sanxingdui. I think all the museums is trying to create a sense of the mystery. So why do we turn all the light off in all the museums? I think if we entered into this ground hall, we will feel the ground journey of the Jinsha ruins. We have finished the tour of the number 3 house, exhibition house, and we are going to enter into the number 4 exhibition hall. It is a part of the exquisite demonstration of the Jinsha ruins, and this is actually a good and vivid demonstrations of the ancient Shu civilization. There are so many different national level treasures demonstrating here. Once we have entered into this number 4 exhibitions, there is a huge sun overlooking us beneath it. So we like to give our cameraman a special. This is what we are seeing here, unearthed from the Jinsha ruins. The god, the sun, and also goldwood, golden decorations. So can you tell us the story when you unearthed this special piece? I have discovered this god piece where I have pointed to you and the sites. I have cleaned up all the earth around it, trying my best to figure out the God, and it's really lucky for us that on the 11th of November 2001, we have unearthed this astonishing God piece. Where does it being attached? Actually, back then the on-site condition was not that ideal. We have restored it, and we have cleaned up all the earth on its surface. We are using the clean water to gradually spread this gold piece. This is what we call God accessory of the sun and secret bird. This is an accessory with a length of 12.5 centimeters, while it only boasts a thickness of 5 millimeters. It is quite dedicated. I cannot imagine that this is a god piece discovered and made
by the ancient Shu people 3,000 years ago. The sacred bird, is catching its tails, and it is also shining like the sun. That's the reason why we have named it the sunshine god sacred bird, god accessory. It is really a good demonstration of what ancient Shu people is capable of when they were making such a beautiful godware. The thickness is only around 0.2 millimeter. And actually the god concentration is around 94.2%. If we look at the full bird circling us, circling the sun, it is also indicating the 4 seasons. It is also a demonstration, a symbolism of the 4 seasons coming in and out year after year. The Son of God is the real God of all the different ethnic groups in China. And we are also going to look at another relations between the Jinsha ruins and the Sanxingdui ruins. This piece of the treasure actually resembles another treasure in the Sanxingdui ruins. It is not the Sanxingdui people comes to us, it is the ancient Shu people coming toward us. 3,000 years ago, let's look at its face. Huge eyes, dashing eyebrows, diamond-shaped eyes, and also this is a very beautiful mosque which probably stood in some sort of temple at that time. It has a weight of 40 grams, a height of 11 centimeters. It is the most well-preserved gold mosque at that time. And in the Jinsha ruins, we have unearthed 7 pieces of the god mosque. It is a real treasure. The ancient Shu people has built up a lot of god mosque, and they have also built up a lot of bronze mosque. The ancient Shu people believe that if you wear the bronze mask, it is going to make you to talk to the god. This is the beautiful necklace that we have unearthed on the page. This is a very shining golden mirror with patterns resembles the Sanxingdui wares. In Sanxingdui, there was a god made truncheon. So people never understand why there are some of the birds and fishes on the god truncheons. And also we could see these arrows shooting through the fish and the bird. But this pattern has appeared on the god truncheon for the first time in the Sanxingdui ruins, but on the god necklace of the Jinsha ruins, we are seeing this pattern demonstrating once again. This is also an indication for the internal relations between the two civilizations. if the ancient Shu people is worshipping the god and the fish, and these patterns, it indicates the people from the Jinsha ruins and the Sanxingdui ruins shared the same ancestors, and they have the same civilization. This is a very small bronze mosque. The people seems on the mosque, it seems like that it is smiling toward us. We find nothing similar in the Sanxingdui ruins. This is a creation for the Jinsha ruins. I also believe that in the Sanxingdui ruins, there are other different cultural relics about the suns. I hope that if the audience really have an interest, you could come to our exhibition house today. For the interest of live streaming, we have only selected several different pieces. We talked about the sacred bird. It is also a demonstration of the ancient Chinese civilization. And from the golden mask, golden necklace, it is representing the highly developed engineering and craftsmanship. We have also seen some of the relations between the Chinese civilization. For example, this jadeware. This is what we call yucong or yuzong, the jade made worshipping pieces. So for the jade circles or jade rings, it first appeared in the Liangchu civilization 5,000 years ago. After the Liangchu civilization, the yucong, the jade ring, gradually passes to the Jinsha civilization. Since its first day, it is not some of the accessories. The jade rings, the yucong, is a very important demonstration of ancient people's belief that by using this piece of the jadeware, it could be connected to the external world. It is hollow in the middle. It is and the external square is representing the earth, while the hollow in the middle is representing the round sky. From its patterns, from its shape, I believe this is nothing like the other 3,000 jade pieces in the Jinsha relics. The animal patterns and also the god patterns is indicating that this is an inheritance from the Liangchu civilization. But here comes my question. There is a huge stride between Liangchu civilizations and also the Jinsha civilization. And I think there are several hundred miles away. So how did the yucong, the jade ring, spread from the Liangchu civilization to the Jinsha civilization? And even our great ancient poet Li Bai has written some of the words that if you want to go to the Shu, it is more difficult than climbing to the heaven. I think the great giant Li Bai has misled us. Since its first day, the ancient Chengdu plain has built a real good cultural exchange between other different plains. They might be connected through the Yangtze River. This is a jade piece that is 1,000 years later compared with the Liangchu culture. Such a great stride for thousands of years might not be accepted through its way, but I believe the unearthing of this ware is also indicating a difference of the Jinsha ruins. At an early day, there are some interactions between the Jinsha ruins and between the Liangchu ruins. no matter for the Sanxingdui ruins, there are some of the alien jade pieces. For example, for this jade piece,
雕刻用剪力和阴线对它雕刻出来的这样的一个兽面花纹，这种花纹特征实际上过去
the ancient Shu people has carved some of the animals, and this kind of animal patterns has been repeated on the bronze wares. And if we look at it from the
刻在玉器上，这个就是体现了它的中原文化的一个技术。
civilization perspective, I believe that we have repeated the patterns in the central Yangtze River plains. And for this
那么这件器物它的造型特征
Yuyue, its pattern has been repeated in the Alitou culture, which is a culture closely located with the located in the Yellow River. So we could, through this different design of the jade pieces, we could see that the ancient Shu civilization has observed many different cultural patterns from all the directions across China, and it's also demonstrated the ancient Shu people's connection with other different civilizations. They are not some of the civilization living alone, standing alone in the Chinese history. Before wrap up with today's live streaming, I'd like to show you some of the pieces. These are some of the indications for the close relations between the Yangtze River and the Yellow River civilizations, because this kind of jade wares has been discovered in the Yangtze River banks and also in the Yellow River banks. And for the Sanxingdui ruins, we have unearthed more yuzhang than any other different places across the country. So that's the reason why we have the reason to believe that the Sanxingdui civilization is a really gathering and clustering up platform to observe all kinds of different cultural features. The Chinese civilization has been the blending of all the different cultures. And with the spread of the great Chinese civilizations, it is also being extended to other different areas. We have the jade wares mimics the pattern of the jade wares in the lower stream of the Yangtze River, and during late-stage archaeological discoveries, we do find some of the wares similar to these pieces of the jade. It is like the jade pieces has traveled from north to south. This connection is also telling us the cultural exchanges. It is a process of the spreading. It is a process of the self-observations. We really want to thank Director Wang for your kind introduction. We have reworked the journey of Jinsha ruins excavation campaign back in the year 2000, and it has echoed once again with our theme, the development of the Sanxingdui ruins and where it will go. I believe in the following days, we are going to unearth small pieces about Sanxingdui, and today, through our journey in the Jinsha Museum, we are going to have a 3-day live streaming about the Sanxingdui ruins. Every day, this kind of a demonstration is going to bring to you more detailed introduction. At 30 p.m. to 40 p.m., we are going to have a special treasure hunting programs. And tomorrow, we are also going to invite some of the experts and also some of the treasures that is not seen to the public. And it is also going to let you to understand the great development of the Chinese civilization. Thank you very much. We are going to continue our journey tomorrow. Thank you very much. Stay with us tomorrow.